You are listening to I Am Refocused Radio with your host, Shamaya Reed. This show is designed to inspire you to live your purpose and regain your focus. And now, here's your host, Shamaya Reed.
Hey, welcome to I Am Refocused Radio. We are here once again. And today, man, we have another show lined up for y'all. Today, we're going to talk to our special guest, Kattie Lail. She is an addiction wellness peer coach and supervisor. Her website, you can go to a little bit later, wefaceittogether.org. Again, that's wefaceittogether.org. First and foremost, I want to welcome you, Kattie, to the show and say how you doing.
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I'm really grateful to be here.
So, man, tell us a little bit about what you do at your gig, wefaceittogether.org, and how did you become a wellness coach?
Yeah. So let me start a little bit about what I do. So as an addiction wellness coach and supervisor, as an organization, we provide peer coaching for people who struggle with addiction or people who have a loved one struggling with addiction. And that loved one doesn't have to be engaged in services with us for that person to be able to receive that support. So we kind of believe in the power of the peer and being able to share our stories to help other people get better, you know, our experience, strength, and hope, because we have made it through it and we can kind of understand. So with that being said, you know, a big piece of what led me to this position was the fact that I've definitely had my own journey. I started using meth at a really young age. When I was 15 was the first time that I tried meth. I was with my mom. Both of my parents have struggled with an addiction. And it just really rapidly turned into, you know, an IV use situation. I got arrested for my first time as an adult at 19. And it was then that I knew that wasn't the lifestyle that I wanted to be living, but I actually had no idea how to stop using. So it kind of just was this on again, off again thing for the next 9 years of my life. I'd been sober for about 3 years in the middle there. And I had this huge recurrence of use or relapse. And during that time, I was just at a really low place in my life. I started selling drugs to support myself. I quickly became very addicted to just that lifestyle. And so 6 months after I started using and selling drugs, I was getting arrested by the federal government. And I was sent to federal prison where I spent 3 years. But I think my real journey to healing started when I was 19. But when I really became willing to actually make some of those changes was the moment that I got arrested by the federal government. I just surrendered to all of it. And I was I just have to do something different. I really need to look at these things that I'm unwilling to change. So I started asking for help. And the crazy thing was there was a lot of people that rallied behind me to support me, to help me through that journey. And so it was those people and that support that helped me become the person that I am today. So I continued to work on myself as I went through my prison sentence, got out, continued to work on myself. And then, you know, I got to this place and I'm that's what I need to do is I need to be one of those people that has been there, done that, and is supporting people getting to that better place, because without those people, I wouldn't be where I am today. So for me, that's where I found my purpose. That's where I ran into Face It Together. It was funny because I seen the job posting and I was this has to be a scam. This job sounds too good to be true. This is everything that I want in a job. And so I called and I had my interview. And, you know, I told them everything about my history, about my past, about being in prison. And their response was, wow, you have a really great experience. You're going to be able to help a lot of people. And for me, at that moment, I was like, if I don't get this job, I don't know what I'm going to do, because this is where I need to be. Just a really great organization focused on meeting people where they're at, supporting people on whatever their journey looks like, and just being a non-judgmental source of hope and encouragement.
And when you were able to start the process of becoming a peer coach, what are some of the things that you enjoy the most being a coach?
So it's interesting for me because I have some background in more clinical settings. I worked in a treatment center where I did addiction counseling, which I also loved that. But the thing that I love most about being a peer coach is that I really get to bring my personal story, my growth, to help other people. And I know for me, like, a biggest part of like coming out of that addiction piece was the shame that I experienced from just like the choices that I had made, and being able to be a person that's like, oh yeah, I know what you're talking about because I've been there. These are some of the shitty things that I've done. And you want to know what? Those things don't define me. They're hardly even a part of who I am now. They've shaped me and made me a better person, but like, they don't define me anymore. And so being able to bring that and sharing that with people is so profound to me.
Once again, this is I'm Refocus Radio, talking to our guest, Kattie Lail. You can go to the website that she's representing, wefaceittogether.org. And on the website, there's multiple coaches a part of this team. When you all are working with the individual, are there times where you collab with each other, or is it kind of just one-on-one for the most part?
You know, so our services are based on a one-on-one model. And so we have a really great first impressions team. So if anybody were to reach out to us, the first thing that we do is have them take a couple quick assessments and talk with our first impressions team. And that first impressions team kind of tries to match them with the coach that has the closest personal experience to the person, you know, seeking that help. So we try to match them up with that person, you know, however, we don't always get it right. And if somebody were to walk in our front door and they were in crisis, like, whoever is available is going to be there to touch base with them. But, you know, so you generally have that one coach that you build a relationship with, but you do have a whole team behind you supporting you if you are ever in need and your coach isn't available.
And when a person comes for you all for help, what's the process usually like? Is it someone dragging them to get finally coached, or is it usually they are really seriously seeking that professional help?
So that's a great question, because that's another huge contrast from like the treatment center that I had worked at. A lot of people there were court ordered to be there, or there because their families were forcing them to be there. Here, I would say 90% of the time, people are here because they want to be here. They're here because they want to make that changes or that change, or because they are looking for that support for how to, you know, navigate life with a loved one who is struggling with an addiction. So a majority of the time, it's somebody coming here because they want to come here. I would say the other 10% of the time is because, you know, things are falling apart in their life. And, you know, they have a parent or a significant other that's like, you got to do something, or I'm done. And so they may come here begrudgingly. But I think it's really easy for them to see once they get in the door that we are very focused on what their goals are and supporting them in accomplishing their goals, rather than like, you need to do this or you need to do that to get to where you want to be.
And you are based in Colorado Springs. Do you only work with people in your local area, or do you do any type of help online as well?
Yeah, that's another great question. So we have an office in Colorado Springs, and we have another office in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. We have coached people in almost all of the 50 states. We've coached a couple people in Canada, a couple people in Europe, and I think we've coached somebody in Australia. So we really have the capacity to be able to reach people wherever they're at. Of course, if you're in South Dakota or Colorado, you have the option of coming into our office. But we also do sessions with people through phone calls. We do sessions with people through Zoom. And we have found that, our remote sessions have a really similar outcome to when people are able to come into our office. So, being able to do those Zoom sessions has been really beneficial to people, especially in some more remote areas that maybe don't have access to care or peer coaching.
And when people listen to this episode, say it's them or someone they know, and they are a little bit shaky about making a decision to reach out for professional help, what would you say to them to help encourage them to make that move?
So I would say, if you were to call, there's absolutely no commitment. You are not making a commitment. We are generally, definitely there's no cost for calling, for reaching out for that support. And I would say it is really difficult to do this alone. Like the opposite of addiction is connection. And so, addiction has a tendency to really isolate us and back us into a corner, and we could be that way out. And so we're really non-threatening. We are really just here to support the individual, whatever that looks like to them. We don't have any specific requirements. We don't make any demands of anybody. We are literally just here to support people on their journey, whatever that looks like.
Once again, listen to I Am Focus Radio, talking to our guest, Kattie Lail. You can go to the website, wefaceit.org. And all right, so I'm a listener. I call you guys and we set up an appointment. What's it typically like? What's the process usually like starting out?
So we try to make it as simple as possible for anybody reaching out. So, most of the time we do the process remotely. And so, you go to our website, wefaceit.org, and then up in the right-hand corner, there's a Get Started tab. So you can fill out the web submission on there. Somebody will reach back out to you. You can call or text our phone number. You can send us an email. Any of those ways, we can get in touch with you any of those ways. And so once we do that initial getting in touch, we will try to schedule a phone call, kind of figure out what it is that you are looking for, how we can support you. And then, if it seems like we're what you're looking for, we will send out a few assessments just to kind of get, a baseline of where you're at, what you're looking for, how we can serve you. And just shortly after that, we get you scheduled with a coach. Usually the process takes a day or two to get everything taken care of and get you scheduled with a coach. We do realize that when people reach out, they're often at a place where they're feeling desperate, or they are feeling lost, or they are feeling, at that vulnerable point where they're ready to ask for help. So we really try to get people in as quickly as possible, make the process as simple as possible, because we know how difficult it is to take that first step.
And are there specialized sessions that you guys have? Like, how does it work once they are beyond that first few steps? Mm-hmm. Do they do more of a homework assignment, or how's the next phase for the individual?
So the next phase for the individual would be, whether it's coming into the office, whether it's doing that Zoom meeting, whether it's taking that phone call, whatever modality they choose to use, it'll be the coach calling and usually doing kind of tell me what's going on, help me understand what it is that I can support you with. And also kind of the coach maybe sharing a little bit of their personal experience. So, they can see if they have that rapport and if it's a good fit. And then, going from there. And the cool thing about what we do is we don't have any specific curriculum that we're working through. We don't have any specific set of assignments for somebody to work on. We don't have a specific way that we work with all individuals. I really think that it's important that we get to know the individual, get to know how they learn best, how they grow best, what they are looking for support. And we really tailor the services that we provide to them in accordance with that. So, we have access to a lot of resources as far as like books and, activity type things. And if that's how somebody learns, we can definitely do that. Some people just need somebody to listen. Somebody just needs somebody to, walk them through that problem solving process, or just that like education piece. So it really looks so different for each of our individuals that we work with.
And based on your experience so far being with WeFaceItTogether.org, what's some of the feedback that sticks out for you where you worked with someone and you helped them recover, if I can say that?
Mm-hmm. It's funny because I was just talking with a coworker about this today, and I think that the biggest feedback that we get is, this is not what I expected. It is so much better. And we are, somewhere between a counselor and a sponsor. And so we're able to provide that support with some education behind us and some skills, but we're also not clinical. So we're not, we develop those personal relationships with people as we're working with them. And so I would say that the biggest feedback that we get is that connection. They took the time to get to know me. They really helped me accomplish my goals. I didn't feel pushed into anything. So I would say that is our biggest feedback that we get.
You listen to I Am Refocused Radio, talking to Kattie Lail. You can go to her website that she's a part of, WeFaceItTogether.org. And earlier in the episode, you mentioned your parents. This was a family cycle. Mm-hmm. What was it like for you when you were able to break the cycle? I mean, saying it was difficult is an understatement. But what was the true feeling for you when you were able to see that light at the end of the tunnel?
It was an interesting journey for me because I think when I initially made that decision, it was really like me looking at where this addiction had taken my mom. And at that point, my dad was in prison. And so like a combination of those two things. But like, I think even like thinking about walking away from it, it was a weird feeling of like grief and guilt along with hope and encouragement. And I think that, grieving, because it's walking away from like anything that you are familiar with and like venturing into this new wilderness. And so I felt really lonely and isolated. And I felt guilty for leaving the people that I cared about behind, as I knew they were suffering, but I knew the only way to get myself to a better place was to walk away. And so those emotions, but also, like this feeling of, it doesn't have to be like this, like I think that I can do more. And that was exciting, and it was scary, and it was a long process. But you kind of learn through doing that, the power of setting a precedent or an example, and, being that leader, because, it was me first, like I walked away first, but because I had walked away, like, I feel like I laid the tracks for other people in my life to be able to walk away and see that that was something that was even possible, because, sometimes when you're in the midst of it, it doesn't seem like it is.
And now that you speed up to today, you're able to be a peer coach. How do you stay focused when you're helping others and keeping yourself from going backwards in the past?
I feel like for me, and I would imagine for the other coaches as well, especially like as I'm working in that supervisory role with them, it's that constant being able to reflect on my own self-care and being able to take quick inventories about where I'm at. So for me personally, I think one of my biggest things is like, I will take on too much. And I'm like, just say yes to all these things that are like great things, to the point where like I'm overwhelmed. And then it's like, oh my gosh, like I'm not in a good, healthy place. And so I'm constantly like, whether it be like journaling or actually like I have created a document, just a self-care, like check-in for different aspects of your life. And so reviewing that for myself. And so those things for me are what help me keep focused on myself, because it can be really easy to, get focused on like that giving and helping and being there for other people, that you forget to like give and help and be there for yourself.
And that's a good point. I recently talked to a guest where she was a doctor, and she was talking about burnout, and not just burnout with the pandemic, but just burnout in general of being a mother and also working her career. When you are balancing that, both work and family life, how have you been able to keep that healthy balance of not allowing yourself to get to that point of burning out?
So that's a constant battle for me, to be really honest, because my family is so absolutely important to me and my work is so absolutely important to me. And then somehow I got caught up in this mix of also deciding that I was going to go to grad school in the midst of all of this. And so, school is also really important to me. And so I think my biggest thing for me personally is being aware of like where I'm saying yes and where I need to be saying no. So those two things. And then also, I always tell people, and it sounds so cheesy, but time management is my self-care. Like if I am managing my time effectively, like I actually have time to get a lot of things done. And so when I'm not managing my time effectively, that's when I start to feel like I'm falling behind in things and I become overwhelmed.
Once again, listen to I Am Refocused Radio, talking to Kattie Lail. You can go to the website, wefaceit.org. And before we wrap up, when people are coming out of this treatment, when they're graduating, if you will, how many people have you experienced coming back to y'all, checking up, just giving an update on their life?
So it's funny because I actually just had somebody stop in today who is just getting ready to finish her college degree in December. And it's just like so good to hear from people that have been able to change their life in a positive way because of the services that Face It Together has provided to them. I would say that as an organization, something that we seem to do well is we seem to kind of be able to maintain some of those relationships and do some of that follow-up to just be like, hey, how are things going for you? Like, is there anything else that we can do for you? And just like that ongoing support. So, and we also try to, help people, encourage them to be able to share their stories and their, experience with getting to a better place, because it truly is through those stories that people find hope. And so, encouraging people to be able to share that can make a big difference for a lot of other people in their lives.
We've been talking to Kattie Lail. You can go to the website that she's a part of, wefaceit.org. I want to say thank you for taking time talking to us about Face It Together. So if you're in need, or someone else who's in need, and you are looking to find your way to wellness, I highly suggest you start today and take that next step. Go visit wefaceit.org. I want to say thank you to our guest, Kattie Lail, to taking time in your schedule talking to us today.
Thank you so much for having me.